Oh, hello. Can we please talk about Cage Warriors 145? It's happening in London tomorrow night, that being Friday, the 4th of November? Yeah, Friday the 4th of November. I think a card starts about 7 o'clock. So it's a nice UK card. There's some excellent fighters on there. For me, I do follow Cage Warriors. I really enjoy Cage Warriors because the fights are on a reasonable time for me, being a Brit. And I don't feel like it gets enough coverage. So you know what? I'm going to do some coverage on it. Maybe people will watch it. Maybe they won't. Who knows? That's up to you. Sorry, I'm just playing. Anyway, yeah, there's some good fights on tomorrow. There are a couple of fighters that are friends of friends, and some that I know personally. So I am heavily biased. So don't obviously go too heavy in my picks. But either way, if you want to know a little bit more about some of the fighters on the card tomorrow night, then stay with me. First off, I'm going to start in the light heavyweight division. Now, this one is a really nice fight, and for one reason only, it is nice to see Modestas Bukauskas back on his feet, literally, because like it's Lee Chadwick versus Modestas Bukauskas. Modestas Bukauskas was in the UFC for a little bit, and the reason I'm happy to see him getting back on his feet, no pun intended, like genuinely, I'm glad to see him back fighting again, because we saw him fight Khalil Roundtree, about a year or so ago? And yeah, we saw this happen, which I'll roll up here. Oh! Yeah, viewer discretion advised. I probably should have said that before showing you that. But yeah, you know what? Just very glad that he's back fighting again. You know, even if it's not in the UFC, he did show a lot of promise. So I'm sure that we'll see him back there soon. Now you've got across from him Lee Chadwick. Lee Chadwick he's a pretty tough customer himself, actually. You know, they're both on the 6 foot mark. Lee's 6 foot. Bukauskas is 6'3". He has got like a 7-inch reach advantage according to the stats that I've seen online anyway. So for me, Modestas, he's going to be looking to string some wins together outside of the UFC to try and get back to the UFC. At 37, the UFC might not be a goal. I mean, it probably still is a goal, but is it realistic for Lee Chadwick at this point? Who knows? Who knows? Chadwick, like I've seen him pull out some good wins, actually. And one of the things that I like about Chadwick is, I'll go back to in a moment, because when you look at Bukauskas, he's a very good kickboxer. Like you'll see here, I'm going to play a little clip of Bukauskas versus Nielsen, and there's a lot here that you can that is good, like the cross especially. If you watch that cross, that when he puts you on the end of that cross, that's really effective. But for me, it's just, he leaves himself off balance there, leaves himself open for the right hand. Now that, for me, is a real problem when you consider that he's going up against, like I said, against Lee Chadwick. Now, Chadwick, you check this out. This is from 2017, I think. But watch look, he goes for the jab, overhand right, bang, boom. Brilliant punch. Lovely, lovely punch. And then he goes straight onto that neck. My concern is, well, you'll see the tap out here in a second, is he's just got a vice-like grip, has Lee Chadwick. If he gets hold of that neck, it's a problem. My concern for Bukauskas is that obviously you saw that he was very susceptible to that right hand. Now, bear in mind, that was quite an old fight against Nielsen. That was back in his first stint in Cage Warriors. So obviously he's come a long way since then. But like what we've seen there is like Chadwick has got a legit, like lovely looping right hand. Bukauskas, he does get hit. He's a good kickboxer, but he does tend to get hit. And that for me could be a slight issue. But I am still gonna pick Modestas, just because, look, he's only 28. Youth usually wins. In mixed martial arts, youth comes out on top. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a fair amount, right? He's only 28. He's got a significant reach advantage. He's got the height. He knows how to use those advantages. He's an excellent kickboxer. I think he'll stay at range. It'll be nice to see him back in the cage again. So I am going to be picking for Modestas in this one. Because look, Modestas, he might be coming back to Cage Warriors. He might have had a rough run in the UFC. But you've got to look at the level of competition they put him against. After his first fight, second fight in the UFC, they gave him Jimmy Crute, for God's sake. Jimmy Crute! Jimmy Crute's a fucking savage. But I think it was too much too soon for Modestas Bukauskas in the UFC, but I feel like he's going to get a few more wins under his belt in Cage Warriors or any other promotion. and we'll see him back in the UFC, and he will have grown, he'll have learned, he'll be better for it, and we will see the best of Modestas Bukauskas to come. So he's coming in as a heavy favourite as well, by the way, minus 140, almost not even worth putting on the bet slip. I will anyway. So then you've got Colin Loughran versus Luke Shanks. Now Luke Shanks, I do know him. He's a good guy. Like I've met him a few times. He's a friend. I met him through a friend. You know, absolutely lovely bloke. So I am heavily biased in this one. I will throw that out there first. So, give you a bit of background on these. Luke Shanks is a former flyweight champion, and he's since gone up to bantamweight, which I think is actually a pretty good move for Luke. I think he looks stronger. He looks more physical at bantamweight. Now the problem is Colin Loughran. I don't know how he gets down to bantamweight. If I'm totally honest, he's 6-0. He's 5'6". His reach isn't up there. So when you look at his frame, we'll have a quick look. Just the way he's built, he kind of reminds me a bit of Sean Shirk. But where is he? Loughran, yeah. Because see, for me, Loughran, if you look at him here, look at how he's built. He's kind of like he's a kickboxer predominantly. But what I saw here is he tends to wait. He waits for a reaction and then he strikes. He's a counter striker predominantly. And I think that actually plays right into Luke's hands, if I'm totally honest. Because when you look at Luke here, I'll play the video up here. Watch how much he feints. He's very busy. Luke's such a busy fighter. Look, he's in and out, feinting. You don't really know when he's going to be throwing. But that leaves openings so when he does throw, he goes through the combinations. You've got the uppercut there, lovely stuff. And he's back in, he's back out. He's out of range of the kick. That is going to be, it's that style that causes a lot of problems for people when they fight Luke, because Luke can do that for like 10 rounds, let alone 5, and this one's a 3-round fight. The pace that Luke Shanks is going to be able to put onto Loughran, I think, is going to be the difference maker. I think he's going to put on a pace that Loughran can't deal with, and that's going to break him mentally. Because one thing that I would say, obviously I don't know Loughran personally, so it's speculation, but you look at his first few opponents, they have got a combined record of like 0-50 or something. It's bad, but that for me, it's like a kind of, maybe it's a mental weakness kind of thing. And you look at the size of the guy. I don't know. I don't like using the term weight bully, but it might be. I mean, how does he cut down to that weight just to be that ballooned up, like so that you can fight people? So you can fight a division down, basically. I have much more respect for people who fight at their actual weight class, because I had the same critique of Khabib. Like legitimately, the guy missed weight so many times. It's like, why didn't you go up a weight class and test yourself against guys who are actually your size? That's the thing. Whereas, respect to Luke Shanks, that's exactly what he's doing. Luke Shanks started as a flyweight, former flyweight champion, and I would say actually, we've got to remember, this is a big step up in competition for Loughran, because who has he fought that's a former champion? Nobody, right? Look, Luke Shanks is he's a former champion. He's fought championship level opponents. Either way, I think this is a good weight class for Luke. I really do. I think he looks more physical. He looks better. There's more emphasis. There's more impact in his punches, and having a little bit of extra weight with his skill set on the ground will only help him. I do think he'll probably have an advantage if he gets the takedown over Loughran as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, Loughran's dangerous because he's a big old boy and he's a very good kickboxer as well. And you know what? The dude's in shape. He's athletic. He's got some good power on him. So you'd be a fool to count him out. Do you know, he's obviously a very good opponent. But for me, I just feel like the edge, well, I have to give it to Luke, but I mean, I am heavily biased, I'm not going to lie. But looking at the facts, I just feel like Luke's style, it really is it's a good skill set to use against a fighter like Loughran, who's going to be waiting, looking for the counter punch. And Luke just goes in there feinting so much, you just don't know when he's actually going to be throwing. And he's in and he's out. His footwork's very good. Yeah, I'm picking Luke Shanks. He's coming in as an underdog as well. He's actually an underdog in this one. I think he's like a 2.38. So that's for heavily biased underdog pick for Luke Shanks. Luke the Apocalypse Shanks gets one back in the win column. And yeah, keep an eye on Luke. Honestly, he's very talented and he will be in the UFC, no problem. As a lot of these guys will. This is why I like watching Cage Warriors. You really do see the future of mixed martial arts. And this one's good. That for me is probably my personal main event of the evening. I'm not going to lie. I'm really looking forward to that one. You can tell I'm excited. So Then you've got the main event. You've got Jordan Vucenic versus Paul Hughes. I apologise if I've butchered that that name, but yeah, Vucenic, I believe that is the pronunciation. He is a friend of Joshua Watkins, friend of the show, who's one of my biggest supporters. Thank you for all your support, Joshua. It's a massive help, and yeah, I'm always appreciative, and I love all the memes that you tag me in as well. But anyway, so from what I can see, that Vucenic is a friend of Josh. So yeah, obviously friend of a friend. I know that Josh is going to be supporting you. I'll probably be supporting you as well because you're a local guy from Corby. From what I've seen, I've done a bit of research, and yeah, I see that he fights out of BST now, Blood, Sweat and Tears, which is a local gym. I actually used to go there just to use their weights area and stuff. Really, it was just close to my house when I lived in Northampton. Raymond Paul, his coach, I've met a few times. Nice guy, very intense, very scary. He really knows fighting. He lives and breathes it. He knows fighting. That is a man that you want as your coach. I'll tell you that much. Good Lord. So yeah, Vucenic. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because he's a local guy and I'm aware of some of the people that he's friends with and that. But this one's actually a rematch. So Vucenic got the better of a split decision back in 2020, but I think he's come quite a long way since 2020, if I'm totally honest, when you look at some of his more recent performances. So he's on a bit of a roll. The standing rear naked choke that he got over James Hendon, which I'm going to play for you just here, is absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I went back and watched a few of these fights, and this one in particular was great. So yeah, he comes in, he actually catches him in like a head and arm, like standing, and that's something that I like to do in Japanese jiu-jitsu. It's a great throw. You grab him by the neck and throw him with the calf, but he's used it to climb up onto his back. That's some Charles Oliveira shit. I fucking love this. He's just like, but he's got the body lock there. That's really important. He's got the body lock. So now it's like his opponent can't really like fling himself backwards, because then what's he doing? He's just landing in the body lock, and he's going to get he's kind of between a rock and a hard place here. And then Vucenic just takes his time. He knows he's got the time. He takes his time. He gets his arm under. He cranks it up. And yeah, eventually you've got no choice but to tap. Fantastic win. That was a really sensational performance. Absolutely loved that. If you could try and replicate some of that, which I think is on the cards, because when you look at what Hughes did against the former champion, look, he goes in with the flying knee there, and he just leaves his neck wide open. If you leave your neck wide open like that against Vucenic in 2022, I might add, not 2020, this isn't 2020 anymore. I know this is a rematch, it was close the last time, but I feel like Vucenic has he's come a little bit further than Hughes. From what I've said, all I've done is gone back and watched like a load of their fights. And for me, I feel like Vucenic is a different fighter than you saw in 2020. But you know what? The styles make fights. Paul Hughes is obviously a very good opponent. But just from what I've seen, I've gone back and just watched their last few fights. I feel like Vucenic has come a little bit further than Paul Hughes. But you know what? We will find out on the night, won't we? We'll find out on the night. And yeah, either way, it's going to be a fantastic main event. Who doesn't love a title unification fight? I am excited as hell, but my money is going on Vucenic, and that's yeah. So I think my accumulator there is like 6-1, which is a terrible bet, because that's not even good odds. But yeah, hopefully I'll be recapping this in the 60-second news on the Burt Locker on Wednesday of next week, let's say. So yeah, until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.